The rearview mirror caught everything I needed to see and everything I wished I hadn't. Honestly, he's like a rescue dog, Rachel said from the back seat, her voice carrying that particular tone she used when she thought I couldn't hear her properly over the highway noise. You feed him, pat his head, and his tail starts wagging. So easy to control. I adjusted the mirror down slightly, catching her reflection as she gestured toward the back of my head. Her friends, Melissa and Tracy, were practically vibrating with suppressed laughter. 5 hours into this drive to their precious spa weekend, and apparently the entertainment had shifted from celebrity gossip to dissecting my marriage. Stop it, Melissa whispered, but she was grinning. I'm serious, Rachel continued, warming to her theme. Watch this when we get there. I won't even say thank you. He'll just sit there like a good boy, waiting for his next command. Tracy snorted. Does he fetch your slippers too? Probably would if I asked. The car went quiet for exactly 3 seconds. Then, they exploded into laughter, the kind of cruel, breathless cackling that makes your stomach turn. I kept my hands steady on the wheel, my face neutral in the mirror's reflection. Just a rescue dog, driving his owner to her weekend of pampering. Oh my God, Rachel, Tracy gasped between giggles. You're terrible. But accurate, Melissa added. Remember when you made him drive us to that wine tasting last month? He waited in the car for 4 hours. With a book, Rachel said defensively, then ruined it by adding, like a good boy. More laughter. I turned the radio up slightly, letting classic rock fill the awkward spaces, but kept it low enough to hear every word. In my line of work, forensic IT investigation for corporate fraud cases, you learn to listen carefully to conversations people think you can't hear. Digital evidence tells one story, but human behavior tells another. Right now, my wife was painting a picture I'd never seen before. The best part, Rachel continued, apparently unstoppable now, is that he thinks we're actually going to the spa. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. The GPS showed another hour to their destination, the Serenity Springs Resort, according to the reservation I'd helped her book online. Where are you really going? Melissa asked. Same hotel as always. Downtown, David's already there. David. I filed that name away, along with the casual way she said, same hotel as always. My wife had been taking monthly spa weekends for 8 months now. Every time, I'd driven her to what I thought was a wellness retreat. Every time she'd come back refreshed and, somehow, more distant. How long has this been going on? Tracy asked. Since last Christmas. Remember that party at David's gym? The one where Marcus spent the whole night in the corner with his beer? Marcus. That was me. The husband who apparently didn't even merit a name in this conversation. God, yes. You two are practically undressing each other with your eyes. David said I deserved better than a man who treats me like a roommate. I almost laughed at that one. Roommates split expenses. I paid for everything, the mortgage, her car, these monthly getaways that apparently weren't what I thought they were. Roommates also typically told each other where they were actually going. Does he suspect anything? Melissa asked. Please. He's too busy with his computers and his crime shows. I could probably bring David home for dinner and Marcus would just ask if he wanted more potatoes. The GPS announced our exit in 2 miles. I signaled right, watching the mirrors. Rachel checked her makeup. She looked beautiful, the kind of beautiful that had made me stumble over my own feet when we met 6 years ago. Dark hair, green eyes, smile that could power a small city. I'd thought I was the luckiest man alive when she agreed to marry me. You know what the funny thing is? Rachel said as I took the exit ramp. He actually thinks I'm proud of him. Like his little job makes him some kind of hero. My little job. Forensic IT specialist for Hartman and Associates, one of the most prestigious investigation firms in the state. I'd helped recover millions in stolen assets, tracked down embezzlers, and testified in federal court cases. But to Rachel, it was playing with computers. What does he even do all day? Tracy asked. Something with computer crimes, corporate stuff. He tries to explain it sometimes, but it's so boring. He gets all excited about digital footprints and metadata like anyone cares. Digital footprints. Metadata. I almost smiled at that. Every transaction leaves a trail. Credit card charges, GPS data, hotel reservations, phone records. If Rachel thought I was just playing with computers, she'd clearly never paid attention to what those computers could actually tell me. The hotel came into view, not Serenity Springs Resort, but the downtown Marriott. Expensive. The kind of place that keeps detailed records of everything. I pulled up to the valet stand and put the car in park. Rachel was already reaching for the door handle, but I caught her eye in the mirror one more time. "Have fun at the spa," I said quietly. She paused for just a moment, something flickering across her face. Guilt? Probably not. More likely annoyance that I'd interrupted her exit. "Don't forget to wash the sheets before I get back," she said, climbing out without looking at me. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. Tracy leaned forward before getting out. "Thanks for the ride, Marcus. You're such a good sport about these girls' weekends." Melissa patted my shoulder condescendingly. "Rachel's so lucky to have someone so understanding." They gathered their designer luggage from the trunk. Expensive bags for a weekend at a spa that apparently didn't exist. I watched them walk into the hotel lobby, Rachel's arm already linking through Tracy's, as they started laughing about something new. The valet attendant approached my window. "Will you be checking in, sir?" "No," I said, taking one last look at the hotel entrance. "Just dropping off." The drive home took 5 hours. I kept the radio off this time, letting the silence fill the car like water in a sinking ship. But I wasn't drowning anymore. For the first time in months, maybe years, I was thinking clearly. Rachel thought she was married to a rescue dog. Loyal, simple, easily trained. What she'd forgotten was that I spent 40 hours a week tracking down people who thought they were smarter than the system. People who believed they could hide their digital footprints, cover their financial trails, erase the evidence of their deceptions. People exactly like my wife. My home office occupied the converted basement of our suburban house. Rachel's idea originally. "Put all your computer stuff downstairs where it won't clutter up the real living space," she'd said. What she'd actually done was give me a private workspace with fiber optic internet, 3 monitors, and enough processing power to crack most corporate security systems. I'd been home for an hour, sitting in my leather chair, staring at a blank legal pad. The smart thing would be to confront Rachel directly. Ask questions, demand answers, give her a chance to explain. But I'd spent 6 years giving Rachel chances to be honest with me. 6 years of girls' nights that ran until 3 a.m., work conferences in cities where her marketing firm had no clients, and spa weekends that apparently took place in downtown hotels with men named David. The dumb thing would be to hack her accounts. Illegal access to personal information, even a spouse's, could cost me my professional license and possibly land me in federal prison. Everything I'd worked for, gone. The smart thing, the legal thing, was to use the skills I'd developed in 6 years of forensic investigation to examine what was already available to me. I started with our joint credit card statements, information I had every legal right to access. Rachel handled most of our personal expenses, but everything ran through accounts with both our names. I pulled up 18 months of statements and started building a timeline. The spa weekends had started in January, just like she'd told her friends, but the charges weren't from Serenity Springs Resort. Every month, the same pattern. A charge from the downtown Marriott for 2 nights, charges from expensive restaurants I'd never been to, purchases from boutiques that specialized in lingerie. I cross-referenced the dates with Rachel's calendar, the one we shared for household scheduling. Every spa weekend corresponded with a period when she'd marked unavailable on her work calendar. But when I checked her company's website, their marketing team had been active on social media during those exact dates. Team meetings, client presentations, office birthday parties. Rachel hadn't been out of town for work. Next, I pulled our phone records. As the account holder, I could access call and text logs for all devices on our family plan. Rachel's phone showed a pattern of increased activity starting in December. Dozens of calls to a number I didn't recognize. Text message volumes that tripled during certain periods. I ran the unknown number through a reverse lookup service. David Kowalski, age 34, registered address in the downtown area. A quick social media search revealed David Kowalski, personal trainer and part-time gym manager. Recent photos showed him with my wife at what appeared to be a New Year's Eve party. I sat back in my chair, staring at the evidence spread across my monitors. In forensic investigation, we call this the pattern recognition phase, the moment when random data points start forming a clear picture. Rachel had been having an affair for 8 months. She'd used our joint accounts to fund her deception, and she'd been laughing about my ignorance with her friends for God knows how long. My phone buzzed with a text message. Rachel, checking in from her fake spa weekend. Having an amazing time. The mud wraps here are incredible. Don't wait up. We're doing the full detox package tomorrow. Love you. I stared at the message for a long time. She was probably in David's hotel room right now, maybe laughing about the gullible husband who was home, washing sheets like a good dog. The thought made my chest tight with a kind of anger I'd never experienced before. But anger wasn't evidence. Anger wouldn't hold up in divorce court. I needed more. Over the next 2 hours, I built a comprehensive timeline of Rachel's deception. Credit card charges that placed her in the city when she claimed to be at rural spas. Phone records showing hours-long conversations with David during times when she'd told me she was in meetings. Social media posts from her friends showing Rachel at bars and restaurants when she was supposedly doing yoga and meditation. The most damaging evidence came from our shared cloud storage account. Rachel had been backing up her photos automatically, including ones she'd probably forgotten about. Pictures of her and David at restaurants and hotel rooms at his apartment. Timestamps and GPS data embedded in each image, creating an undeniable record of their relationship. I saved everything to an encrypted drive and locked it in my office safe. Then I sat in the dark for a while, thinking about rescue dogs. Rachel was right about one thing. I had been well trained to trust her, to ask no questions, to accept her explanations without investigation, trained to be grateful for scraps of attention and affection. But she'd made one critical error in her assessment. She'd confused loyalty with stupidity. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Rachel. The spa has terrible cell service. Might not be able to talk much tomorrow. Miss you. I looked at the message, then at the evidence of her lies spread across my computer screens. For 6 years, I'd been the husband she wanted. Supportive, unquestioning, easy to manage. Tomorrow, when she came home expecting clean sheets and a wagging tail, she was going to meet someone entirely different. I picked up my phone and typed a response. Take all the time you need, I'll be here. Then I got to work. Sunday morning, I drove to the hardware store and bought new locks for every door in the house. High-security deadbolts with keys that couldn't be duplicated at the corner drugstore. The elderly clerk who rang up my purchase made small talk about home security while I paid cash. You can never be too careful these days, he said, bagging the locks. A lot of break-ins in the suburban neighborhoods lately? You're absolutely right, I replied. Sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who hurt you. He nodded sagely, probably thinking I was talking about burglars. Back home, I spent 3 hours installing the new hardware. Rachel wasn't due back until evening, which gave me plenty of time to make other preparations. I moved through our house methodically, seeing it with new eyes. The bedroom we'd shared for 4 years suddenly felt like a crime scene. I stripped the bed, the sheets Rachel had jokingly told me to wash, and packed them into garbage bags, along with the pillows and comforter. Everything went into the garage, waiting for pickup day. Her clothes were next. I pulled everything from our shared closet and folded it neatly into suitcases, the expensive luggage she'd bought for trips that weren't what I thought they were. I wasn't angry anymore, just methodical. This was evidence collection, the same process I used in corporate fraud cases. In her jewelry box, I found items I'd never seen before. A gold bracelet with an inscription, "To Rachel, my beautiful secret. D." A pair of diamond earrings that hadn't come from me. A hotel keycard from the downtown Marriott, tucked behind a mirror like a trophy. I photographed everything with my phone, making sure the timestamps and metadata were preserved. Then, I packed the jewelry with her clothes. The hardest part was going through our shared spaces. The kitchen where we'd cooked dinner together, the living room where we'd watched movies, the front porch where we'd talked about buying a bigger house someday. Every corner held memories of the marriage I'd thought we had. But those memories were built on lies. The woman who'd laughed with me over morning coffee was the same woman who'd called me a trained dog to her friends. The wife who'd kissed me goodbye before her spa weekends was the same wife who'd been meeting another man in hotel rooms. By late afternoon, I had everything ready. Rachel's belongings were packed and waiting by the front door. I'd changed all the locks, updated the security system codes, and transferred our joint savings into an account with only my name. I'd also printed copies of all the evidence I'd gathered: credit card statements, phone records, photographs, hotel receipts. The divorce papers were the final touch. I'd used an online service to draft a preliminary petition, citing adultery and irreconcilable differences. It wasn't official yet, I'd need a lawyer for that, but it would send a clear message about my intentions. At 6 p.m., I sat in my living room with a beer and waited. The house felt different now, like it belonged to me again instead of to the fiction of our marriage. I'd turned off the lights in the front rooms, so Rachel would see the darkness when she pulled into the driveway. My phone had been buzzing all day with messages from her: updates about spa treatments, complaints about the food, promises to bring me back a souvenir. Each message was a small lie, another layer of deception in the story she'd been telling me for months. At 7:30, I heard a car door slam in the driveway. Rachel's key scraped uselessly against the new lock for almost a minute before she started knocking. "Marcus? Marcus, my key isn't working. Can you open the door?" I took another sip of beer and waited. The knocking got louder. "Marcus, I know you're in there. I can see your car. What's wrong with the lock?" I walked to the front window and pulled the curtain aside slightly. Rachel stood on our porch in her spa weekend outfit: yoga pants and an oversized sweater that probably cost more than most people's rent. Her face was flushed with frustration, her designer luggage scattered around her feet. She looked beautiful and angry and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. I opened the door but left the security chain engaged, creating a gap just wide enough for conversation. "Hi, Rachel. How was the spa?" Her expression shifted from frustration to confusion. "What do you mean? Why won't you let me in? And why did you change the locks?" "I didn't change the locks," I said calmly. "I replaced them. Security upgrade." "Well, can you give me the new key? I'm exhausted and I just want to come home." "This isn't your home anymore." The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. Rachel stared at me through the gap in the door, her green eyes wide with disbelief. "What are you talking about?" "Marcus, stop playing games and let me in." "I'm not playing games, I'm ending them." I closed the door and walked back to the living room, leaving Rachel on the porch with her luggage and her lies. She started pounding on the door immediately, shouting my name, demanding explanations I wasn't ready to give. But I could hear something else in her voice now, underneath the anger and confusion. For the first time in our marriage, Rachel sounded afraid. The rescue dog had learned a new trick. Rachel's pounding on the door continued for 20 minutes before it stopped. I heard her talking on her phone, probably calling Tracy or Melissa, looking for somewhere to stay while she figured out what was happening. The conversations were muffled through the door, but her tone was increasingly desperate. At 9 p.m., my phone rang. Rachel's number. "Marcus, please. I don't understand what's going on. Can we just talk?" "We can talk," I said, "but not inside. Check your suitcases." "What suitcases, Marcus? You're scaring me." I hung up and watched through the window as she discovered the luggage I'd left on the porch. She opened the first suitcase and found her clothes, neatly folded and organized by type. The second suitcase held her shoes, accessories, and the jewelry box with David's gifts inside. The third bag contained the evidence. I watched her face change as she found the printed credit card statements, the phone records, the photographs. She held up one of the pictures, herself and David kissing in what appeared to be a restaurant booth, and stared at it like she couldn't quite believe what she was seeing. My phone rang again. "Where did you get these?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Does it matter?" "Marcus, I can explain." "Can you explain 8 months of lies? Can you explain using our money to fund your affair? Can you explain calling me a rescue dog to your friends while I drove you to meet another man?" Silence on the other end of the line. "You heard that?" "I hear everything, Rachel. I see everything. It's what I do for a living, remember? Though I guess you never paid attention to what I actually do." "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been cheating on me with David Kowalski since January." You've been lying about your spa weekends, using our joint accounts to pay for hotel rooms where you meet him. You've been laughing about my ignorance with your friends and treating our marriage like a joke. She was crying now, but I felt no sympathy. These weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of someone who'd been caught. I never meant for this to happen, she said, but it did happen. For 8 months. That's not a mistake, Rachel. That's a choice you made over and over again. Can we please just talk? Face to face? I'll explain everything. I looked through the window at my wife sitting on the porch steps, surrounded by her packed belongings and the evidence of her betrayal. She looked small and lost, nothing like the confident woman who'd mocked me to her friends just 2 days ago. We are talking, I said. This is all the conversation we need. What about our marriage? What about the life we built together? What life? The one where you disappear every month to sleep with another man? The one where you lie to me about where you're going and what you're doing? The one where you tell your friends I'm a trained dog who'll do whatever you want? I was just venting. Every wife complains about her husband sometimes. Every wife doesn't have 8 months of hotel receipts and love letters from her personal trainer. The line went quiet again. When Rachel spoke, her voice was different, harder, more calculating. You can't just lock me out of my own house. I have rights. We're married. You're right. We are married. Which means I have access to all our financial records, all our shared accounts, all our joint assets, including the evidence of how you've been spending our money. You're threatening me. I'm informing you. Tomorrow morning, I'm filing for divorce. Adultery is still grounds for divorce in this state, and I have more than enough evidence to prove it. You can fight me in court if you want, but your boyfriend's love letters and 8 months of hotel receipts are going to make for interesting testimony. I heard her sharp intake of breath. I'll call my lawyer. You should do that. But first, you might want to call David and let him know that his personal information is part of the evidence file. His employer might be interested to know that he's been conducting personal business during work hours. You wouldn't. Try me. The truth was, I probably wouldn't destroy David's career over this. But Rachel didn't know that, and the threat served its purpose. She was finally starting to understand that the balance of power in our relationship had shifted completely. Where am I supposed to go? She asked, and for the first time, she sounded genuinely lost. That's not my problem anymore. You should have thought about that before you decided our marriage was a game. Marcus, please. I know I made mistakes, but we can work through this. People get past affairs all the time. We can go to counseling, we can... No. The word came out harder than I'd intended, but I didn't soften it. This isn't a mistake you made, Rachel. This is who you are. You're someone who lies to her husband's face for 8 months. You're someone who mocks the person who loves her. You're someone who uses joint money to fund her deception. That's not a mistake. That's your character. You don't mean that. I mean every word. The woman I married doesn't exist. She never existed. You've been playing a role, and I've been too stupid to see it. So, what happens now? I looked around my house now, really. Clean, quiet, free of lies and deception. For the first time in months, it felt like home. Now you figure out your life without me in it, and I figure out mine without you. I hung up the phone and turned off the lights in the front room. Through the darkness, I could see Rachel still sitting on the porch steps. Her phone pressed to her ear, she made call after call, looking for somewhere to spend the night. I went to bed in clean sheets in a house with new locks and slept better than I had in years. Monday morning, I called in sick to work and drove to the best divorce attorney in the city. Margaret Chen had a reputation for being thorough, aggressive, and expensive. Exactly what I needed. Her office occupied the top floor of a downtown building with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city where my wife had been conducting her affair. This is quite a comprehensive file, Margaret said, reviewing the evidence I'd compiled. She was in her 50s with silver hair and the kind of sharp eyes that missed nothing. How long did it take you to gather all this? 2 days, but the affair went on for 8 months. And you had legal access to all of this information? Joint accounts, shared phone plan, cloud storage we both used. Nothing here required illegal access. She nodded approvingly. Good. That keeps everything admissible. Your wife's attorney won't be able to challenge the evidence on procedural grounds. How strong is the case? Very strong. Adultery, financial deception, use of marital assets to fund the affair. This is about as clear-cut as these cases get. The photographs alone would be enough. But the financial records? Seal it. Margaret leaned back in her chair, studying me with professional curiosity. Can I ask you something, Mr. Peterson? Why didn't you confront your wife directly? Most betrayed spouses want answers, want to give their partner a chance to explain. I spent 6 years giving her chances to be honest with me. She used every one of them to lie more effectively. Fair enough. What outcome are you looking for here? I want out. Clean break, fair division of assets, and I want this resolved quickly. What about reconciliation? Counseling? No. Margaret made notes on her legal pad. All right, I'll file the petition this afternoon. Your wife will be served within 48 hours. Given the strength of our evidence, I expect her attorney will recommend settlement rather than a contested trial. How long will it take? If she doesn't fight it? 3 to 4 months. If she contests it, we could be looking at a year or more. But honestly, with evidence this solid, fighting would just cost her money and public embarrassment. I left Margaret's office feeling lighter than I had in months. The legal machinery was in motion now, and there was no going back. Rachel would be officially served with divorce papers, and our marriage would become a matter of public record. My phone had been buzzing all morning with calls and texts from Rachel, but I'd ignored them all. There was nothing left to say. But when I got home, I found her car in my driveway and Rachel herself sitting on my front steps. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, her eyes red from crying. She stood up when she saw me, and I noticed she was wearing the same outfit from yesterday. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. You need to leave. Marcus, please, just 5 minutes. Where did you sleep last night? The question seemed to catch her off guard. What? Simple question. Where did you sleep? Tracy let me use her couch. Not David? Rachel's face flushed. David and I, it's complicated right now. I almost laughed. Complicated how? Did you tell him you were getting divorced? Did he suddenly realize that dating a married woman might not be as fun when she's actually available? It's not like that. What's it like, Rachel? She wrapped her arms around herself, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her, but I felt no urge to comfort her. This was the same woman who'd called me a rescue dog while I drove her to meet her lover. I made a mistake, she said quietly. You made hundreds of mistakes. Every lie, every deception, every hotel room. Those were all choices. I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through it. You keep saying that. But you haven't explained why I should want to fix it. Because you love me. The words hung in the air between us. Rachel said them with the confidence of someone who'd always been able to rely on my feelings for her. The old Marcus would have crumbled at those words, would have started looking for ways to forgive and forget. But the old Marcus had been a fool. I loved the woman I thought I married, I said. But that woman doesn't exist. You're a stranger who's been living in my house and spending my money while lying to my face. That's not true. It's completely true. The woman I loved wouldn't have cheated on me. She wouldn't have mocked me to her friends. She wouldn't have used our joint accounts to fund her deception. You're not her, Rachel. You never were. She started crying again, but this time it felt different. Less manipulative, more genuine. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. What do you want me to do? She asked. I want you to sign the divorce papers when you're served. I want you to stop calling me. I want you to figure out your life without trying to drag me back into it. And if I don't? Then this gets ugly. Public trial, testimony about your affair, cross-examination about your lies, your family, your friends, your coworkers. They'll all know exactly what kind of person you are. Rachel stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Maybe she was. The rescue dog had learned to bite. I never wanted to hurt you, she said. But you did hurt me. Every day for 8 months, and you enjoyed it. She didn't deny it, which told me everything I needed to know. I'll have my attorney contact yours, she said finally. You should do that. Rachel walked to her car without looking back. I watched her drive away, knowing it would probably be the last time I saw her outside of a courtroom. My phone rang as I unlocked my front door. Margaret Chen. Mr. Peterson, I have some interesting news. Your wife's boyfriend contacted my office this afternoon. Apparently, he wants to cooperate with our investigation. What does that mean? It means David Kowalski is willing to testify about the affair if we need him to. He's also provided additional evidence: text messages, emails, photographs. It seems your wife wasn't entirely honest with him either. I sat down heavily in my living room chair. She lied to both of us. That appears to be the case. Mr. Kowalski thought he was dating a separated woman who was planning to leave her husband. When he found out she was still living with you and using marital funds for their relationship, he ended things. So she lost both of us in the same weekend. Justice has a sense of irony sometimes, Margaret said. This additional evidence makes our case even stronger. I'd be surprised if your wife's attorney doesn't recommend immediate settlement. After I hung up, I sat in my quiet house and thought about rescue dogs. The old Marcus had been loyal, trusting, eager to please. He'd believed the best about people, even when the evidence suggested otherwise. But rescue dogs, when pushed too far, will eventually bite the hand that feeds them. Rachel was about to learn that lesson the hard way.